Happy Monday, everybody. Hope you're having a good day today so far. Hope you had a good weekend. Um, I spent uh part of the day on Sunday. I took the time to look for some microphones that I could get for the podcast so that the voice can sound better. And my nephew showed me one. I think it's a HyperX. It's the same brand as his headphones that we use, and it's the I can't remember what it's called, but it's a HyperX, and it's really nice. It lights up with different colors, um, and there's just all kinds of different things you can do with it. It's 120 bucks, and I think that's because it's on sale. I think it's more than that usually. So we're looking into getting that. Um, he's going to pay for some. I'm going to pay for some of it because we're going to collectively use it. Obviously, it's not just for me. So I'm really excited about that. If anybody knows anything about microphones and like what's a good brand, um, what's cost efficient, if you know of a microphone that's better than this HyperX something S that I'm talking about, then I would appreciate any feedback on that, and that would be great because I really need a good one. Um, Saturday night, quick story. When I got off work, we were deciding on what to eat for dinner, and my dad said he wanted Boomer Jacks. And I've never eaten at Boomer Jacks. I know we have one right close to the house. There's several in Fort Worth, but I never actually eaten there. It's I would say it's like a Chili's, but it's not because it's more of a sports bar. So it's more like I don't know. I guess I can't think of any other sports bars, but that's what it's like. You go in, there's TV screens all over the place, um, to watch sports, music videos, whatever they have on the TVs at the time. And I mean, it's a very busy place. It is always packed. People are parking on the side of the street because there's no room in the parking lot. It's very busy. So we decide to eat there and we call in and place the order. And they say it'll be 25 minutes. So by the time we get there, it's been about 10. So we wait, 5 to 10 more minutes. I go in to ask for the order. She comes back and she's like, "Well, I don't have an order under that name." And I was like, Okay." So she checked under my dad's name, Jerry. I said, "Well, can you check under Vicky? Maybe he gave my stepmom's name." She comes back. She's like, "No, these are the only two names we have. This is what the orders are." And so I call my dad from inside. I'm like, "Okay, they don't have our order. So we have to place it again." And this time I add something to it because now we've been there and we're going to have to wait, that we're just going to get Dalen's food there too instead of Chicken Express, which is what he wanted. So we add that, and she takes down my phone number. And when my dad placed the order on the phone, they took down his phone number. Why? I don't know, because they said they don't call, you got to come in and get it. So we wait another 20 minutes. I go in, she checks, the food's not ready yet. Then my dad calls me and he's like, "Someone just called and said that the food's ready." So I let her know. And then I asked to speak to a manager because now I'm mad because my order wasn't placed. I had to redo it. So I've had to wait an hour to get my food. And I'm upset. It's ridiculous. And I tell the manager, I said, "Look, I don't know what happened with the first order. But what I do know is when I placed the order the second time and gave this girl my phone number, we get a phone call from this store on my dad's phone saying our food is ready." And she's like, "Oh, well, we don't call people to let them know." I'm like, "Well, somebody called because I have an incoming phone call." I was really ticked off. I wanted some kind of discount for having to wait twice. She wasn't going to do a thing. So I paid for it and I left. And then I went on Twitter and I posted about the experience because I usually do not complain about things. But when you're paying that kind of money for something, you expect to get decent service. Not only that, when we got it home, we paid $10 for Dalen's chicken tenders. There was like four tenders, and a handful of fries. That's ridiculous for that kind of money. I got a chicken fried steak that looked completely anemic. It was gray. It was greasy. It was gummy. The crust was. The meat itself was very chewy and gristly. And I'm not sure how much the chicken fried steak cost, but it wasn't worth the what I paid. Um, so I complained about it, and I asked, how do I get in touch with corporate? Because the biggest problem they have there, don't go on a Saturday night. They have one hostess running the stand where she's seating people, she's taking down to go orders, she's putting the orders in, she's taking payments, she's going grabbing orders that are ready. One girl, they can't handle that. I don't blame her for making mistakes because that's a lot of pressure for one person to do on a night like a Saturday night at a sports bar. Anyway, just my horrible experience at Boomer Jack's. I don't think I'll ever eat there again. Their food was not that great. Chili's is far superior to Boomer Jack's. All right, let's get into today's episode. We're going to read our daily promise. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Psalm 1:3. Lord, may I be firmly planted in your word and truth. May I always find delight in your face as I meditate on your great loving kindness. Yet I am so undeserving. You have allowed me to serve you. Truly, I stand in awe at your faithfulness and your goodness. Let me tell you, I've had some blessings and goodness come my way here recently in the last week. And, I always know that God can do anything, but sometimes our finite minds can't fathom the anything. And we forget that God can do that kind of stuff. But He can. Okay, so I have a few stories that I want to cover. And then I have one main topic that I want to talk about at the end before we close. But first, I want to talk about tornado, the tornadoes that hit at least 5 states, and this was back on December 10th. Was it that it happened? December 11th. And the reason I want to talk about it is because when I see things like this happen, um, massive earthquakes, tornadoes, and like tons of tornadoes in certain areas. Um, the flood in New York, that was flooding into the streets, and so many people dying all the time. And not that people don't die every day, but I just seem to be hearing more and more people are dying. So it's because it's being reported on more. I'm not sure. Regardless of the reason, I always think about the last days when the Bible says that there will be earthquakes in diverse places, which is many different places. Sometimes in places they've never been known to happen in before. Pestilence and famine and all kinds of things, and in different natural disasters happening on a much larger scale than ever before. And I always think about that when things like this happen. So, this is from the Daily Wire, and it says that dozens of people have died after a series of tornadoes ripped through Midwest and southern states last night, with Kentucky being the hardest hit. So it was on December 10th. Officials said that there were confirmed fatalities after a roof collapsed at an Amazon warehouse in Illinois, that 3 had died in Tennessee, and at least one at an Arkansas nursing home, the New York Times reported. Kentucky's governor said that at least 50 had been killed in a tornado's path of over 200 miles, and that the state's death toll was likely to increase to more than 70 in the coming hours. At least 30 tornadoes were reported throughout Arkansas, Illinois, Kentucky, Mississippi, Missouri, and Tennessee. The largest tornado that struck the region tore through more than 220 miles in Kentucky. Hundreds of thousands of homes were left without power, including 136,000 plus in Tennessee, approximately 60,000 in Kentucky, 25,000 plus in Arkansas, roughly 24,000 in Illinois, and nearly 10,000 in Missouri. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear declared a state of emergency and requested that the Biden admin declare an emergency disaster for the state. One tornado struck the city of Mayfield, which is reporting major damages to public facilities, businesses, and residences. It's reported that a Graves County factory has collapsed, trapping workers, and we believe there are at least 50 fatalities, Bashir said in a statement. Debris covering emergency vehicle buildings has hampered search and rescue efforts. In Hopkins County, a train carrying a hazardous materials has been derailed by a tornado. Vegetative and construction debris over a multitude of county, state, and federal routes. At this point, at least 17 Kentucky counties have experienced tornadic activity and debris fields. The event is ongoing. More than 16 million Americans were subjected to tornado watches last night in 9 states as the massive storm front moved through America's heartland. So, the 3 year average from 2018 to 2021 for tornadoes in December across the U.S. is 47, according to the SPC. Some Decembers are more active in terms of tornadoes compared to others. In 2018, there were 66 tornadoes reported compared to just 18 in 2020. AccuWeather meteorologists remain concerned that the risk of severe thunderstorms may extend as far north as southern Michigan and northern Ohio early Saturday. Following building warmth and humidity, the lid came off the atmosphere Friday evening as a cold front moved in from the west and led to explosive thunderstorm development. During a press conference, Bashir said that as the day progressed, people needed to brace themselves for more tough news. It's been one of the toughest nights in Kentucky history, he said. Some areas have been hit in ways that are hard to put into words. Bashir said that in Kentucky alone, he believes that up to 100 people died from the tornadoes. This will be one of the most significant, the most extensive disasters that Kentucky has faced, Kentucky Emergency Management Director Michael Dossett said, adding this was one of the darkest days in the state's history. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about the Biden admin jumping in to help out. Um, will they send FEMA? I don't know. Doesn't really matter. No, FEMA sucks. So, it's really sad that these people are going through that, especially right before the holidays. I couldn't imagine. I could not imagine. So, prayers with everybody who was affected by these tornadoes. And it's really sad to see people dying. Um, this is a disaster. This is an emergency. What we've been claiming is an emergency for the last 2 years was nothing compared to this. This is definitely something that needs to be taken seriously because it's cold. People are going to need shelter. People need their homes. So, government's really going to have to step it up and actually start taking care of people. But I don't feel like they will because they don't care. Maybe the local government does, but the Biden admin doesn't care about this. This isn't on their radar. They don't care. And I bet you more than anything, you'll see them do absolutely nothing for these people. Okay, let's talk about Governor Newsom real quick. Um, so this is from Steven Crowder. And apparently Governor Newsom said that he's going to use Texas's abortion law to take away your guns. Excuse me. All right, this is by Joseph Gunderson. Like most lefties, and especially those who inhabit the coastal wastelands, Governor Gavin Newsom is always very upset when something happens that threatens the ability to dismember unborn babies. But Newsom believes that he has found a silver lining after the Supreme Court upheld the Texas 6-week ban. What's Newsom's new great idea? To use the same kind of end-around mechanism Texas used as a method of enforcing gun control measures. So he says, if states can now shield their laws from review by the federal courts that compare assault weapons to Swiss Army knives, then California will use that authority to protect people's lives, where Texas used it to put women in harm's way. Okay, first, let me explain why it works with an abortion ban versus your Second Amendment. Because abortion isn't a right and it is not listed in your Constitution. It is not there. There is no right to killing babies. You can try and act like it's there. You can pretend it's there. You can lie to people and tell them it's there. It's not. It's not even subtly implied that it's there. So that's why it works. because it's not a law, it's not a right, and the states have every right to decide what they're going to allow as far as abortions go. That is a state decision. That is to be voted on by the people and implemented by the government there in that state. You want to kill your babies even after they're born? You do that in your own state. I think that we should be allowed to stop that, but at the very least, you do that in your own state, and we're not going to let that happen in our state. It's that simple. It's a state right. It's not the federal government's right or authority to dictate that to the states. Now, your Second Amendment, that is a constitutional right. That is why it will not work. But we've seen time and time again that this administration ignores the Constitution, ignores the laws. They do whatever they want, and people freely give them that power. So if Californians want to give up their guns to Governor Newsom, by all means, go ahead. You're on your own. Newsom plans to use the same civilian reporting and civil suit method to enact this policy, allowing private citizens to seek injunctive relief against anyone who manufactures, distributes, or sells an assault weapon or ghost gun kit or parts in the state of California. Then what you're going to see, I don't know if there's anybody in the state of California, manufacturers or anything like that, distributors maybe, you're going to just see them close down and move. They're going to go to a state where they can do it legally, where they're not hindered by idiots like Governor Newsom. It's just going to ruin your state even more than it already is ruined. So just keep digging your own hole, Newsom. I'm hoping one day you dig it so deep that it breaks the state off into the ocean. That's really what I'm hoping. If you didn't already know this, Governor Newsom is a moron. Yes, we knew that. He's conflating these two issues, demonstrates a complete lack of understanding of each issue, and requires a complete disregarding of the U.S. Constitution. The right to bear arms is a protected right. Abortion isn't. The right to own a gun doesn't harm anyone, contrary to leftist dogma. Abortion is literally the murdering of an unborn child. Newsom's half-baked plan is sure to be quashed almost immediately, but the overt act of attempting to end around the Constitution is something that should cause everyone to take pause. Our governments, local, state, and federal, have been increasingly interested in imposing their will on Americans since the start of the pandemic, but also prior to it. The Second Amendment must not be infringed upon, but we as a country have sat by as these rights have been carved away time and time again. It's time for states and localities to stand up for what our God given rights, starting with the Second Amendment, for. If we should lose the ability to protect ourselves against a growing tyrannical government, all else will quickly fall. Now, I get the argument that they're coming from because it's an argument that I make all the time, but I was enlightened. Uh, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. Go watch John Doyle's newest video on YouTube. I'll link it in the description. It's a great video. It's an hour long, but I promise you it's worth the listen because I was shown something and I think I already knew it. You know how like when you already know something and then someone explains it and you're like, "Well, I already knew that, but like that's a better way to understand it." Maybe you understand it better or now you can explain to other people the same argument with a better argument. I'm one of those people, I am not always good at saying what I mean or explaining my beliefs on things or the arguments that I have. So when I hear someone else with the same argument or with the same belief, but they have a different argument to explain it, I love that. So John Doyle is good for that. He's good for a lot of many other things. He's a really great kid. But he explained that what we're taught in school about tyranny is that it's usually a dictator. Their power is concentrated, and they do this and they do that. And that way, when we are facing tyranny in our own government, it's not as obvious. We don't see it because it's not the tyranny that we were taught is what tyranny is. But if you look over the last 2 years, especially, we are under a tyrannical government. You always hear people say, well, the reason why we don't have tyranny in America is because we have guns and we have our Second Amendment. But that's not true because we do have tyranny right now and nobody's using anything to stop it. And it's because we don't have a necessarily a dictator, and the power is not concentrated in one place. It's spread out throughout all of the government, the institutions, Hollywood, all of those, the state-run media. So you have your schools, your colleges, all of that is representing the same thing. So the power is depleted out among all of these people and all of these institutions, but the effect is still the same. It's still tyranny. It's just not as obvious as a Hitler or Mao or anything like that. So it made for a really good point. And that is my question, is if we said that we would stop tyranny from taking over our government because this is a constitutional republic, then why aren't we doing anything right now? Because they are being tyrannical. And they will continue to double down on that tyranny, and eventually they'll succeed in completely overthrowing the American way. Completely. Need to be more careful. All right, let's talk about schools really quick. A Minnesota teacher um, allegedly tells her students that she's a furry who enjoys threesomes. This is a big reason why I tell you homeschool your kids. If you have to give up your lavish lifestyle to do so, aren't your kids worth it? Isn't their future and their well-being more important than your two cars and your two-story, four-bedroom home that you probably still can't really afford? I would say so. So, society surrounds our children in sex today. Movies, music, television, these are all replete with graphic images and themes. The one place they should be safe from such things, one would hope, is the classroom. But in the Alden Conger Public School District, this isn't the case. Allegedly, as reported by Alpha News, a teacher in the Minnesota School District has chosen her classroom as the perfect venue in which to share her sexually perverse proclivities, regularly sharing with her students details of her sex life. What is up with Minnesota lately? Minnesota has a lot of problems here lately. And Wisconsin, too. What is wrong with these states? But if this wasn't already inappropriate, just wait until you hear just what kind of sex life this woman purports to have. First, she's a furry. If you don't know what a furry is, you're probably a well-adjusted human being. It's, quote, a person who derives pleasure from dressing up as an anthropomorphic animal. I think I said that right. Yeah. Think a professional sports team mascot. These people dress up in their costumes and have sex with each other. But wait, as Billy Mays might say, there's more. So this was shared on Libs of TikTok, which I don't think is going to be around on Twitter much longer because of their new rules they're establishing, but hopefully they'll be there. So not only does this woman get her rocks off dressed as whatever little furry creature, she also has shared details of their three-way relationship between her husband and a lesbian friend of theirs. Why do her students need to know these things? They don't. But it's probably expected with the kind of work she assigns. Along with the specifics of the allegations leveled against the teacher, Julie Quist of the Child Protection League in Minnesota received 2 samples of reading material assigned in the class. All right, here we go. So the first one, I am not there. We are not in that room. I am not sitting on your lap. I'm not wearing the yellow and white gingham skirt, so pretty. Grandmother just made for me this morning. Grandmother is not sitting at her sewing machine, revving the pedal hard like an accelerator, driving herself through the needle. You are not alive. That fifth of whiskey is not empty inside your pocket. I am not 3. You are not 79. Your fishhook fingers are not toddling my birdseed nipples over and over again. Oh my God. I am not admiring the shine of my new white patent leather shoes resting at the edge of your knee. Your other hand is not digging inside my brand new Friday panties Aunt Lydia just gave to me last week because she was so proud that instead of peeing in my diaper, I'd learned to make it in the toilet. Grandmother is not still sitting at her sewing machine, throttling the pedal harder, louder. This is not your hand, your mouth, your palm off fingers, your fish hooks, your pearl handled switchblade. My father is not at work mopping floors, unaware of me, sitting here inside your lap. Alligator. I'm okay. The next one, called Lisp by Sam Sachs. There are more S's in possession than I remembered. My name hinges on the S, is serpentine, has sibilance, is simple, six-lettered, a symbol, different from its sign. Sound shapes how we think about objects. The mouth shapes how sound spills out, how the speaker's seen. Astigmatism is the homosexual mystique. My parents sought treatments. I was sent to a speech pathologist, sixth grade. A student, she gave me exercises. I was schooled, practiced silence, syllabics, syntax, my voice sap in the high branches, my voice a spoonful of sugared semen. I licked, I licked silk when I spoke. I spilt milk when I sang. When I sang, sick men tore wings from city birds, so I straightened my sound into a masculine I. The S is derived from the Semitic letter shin, meaning my swishiness is Hebraic, is inherited, is semantic. No matter what was sacrificed, the tongued Isaac, a son against the stone of my soft palate, still I slipped my hand inside my neighbor's waistband and pulled back pincers. Sisyphus with the sissiest lips, parcel-tongued assassin, sassy in passing for the poisoned sea. Now when I say please, let me suck your C-word, I sound straight as the still second hand on a dead watch. What grade does this woman teach? I, it doesn't say. Okay, so both pieces are terrible graphic. The one on the left describing the first-hand account from a 3-year-old as a girl as she is molested by her 79-year-old grandfather, and the one on the right recalls the experiences of a homosexual boy reconciling his sexuality with the world around him. Both are disgusting, and neither should be used to teach students from 14 to 16 years old, which is the age range of this pervert's students. Quist has already contacted the superintendent saying, quote, a teacher who operates in this manner should be fired. The actions of this teacher are deeply disturbing, end quote. I agree. I'm sure my readers agree. But may I add that this teacher should also go to jail? I think it's more than warranted. This is yet another example of the irrevocably broken state of our public schools. They want your children indoctrinated into their sensualist cult, ignorant and totally brainwashed. This is just another form of grooming by people who are preying on your kids. Don't let them do it. And it's not just that. So, since I did that, I wanted to do this article here about 5 ways that parents are being silenced by school boards because I think it's important because this is the kind of stuff that's going on. And I understand not everybody can homeschool. There are those parents that have no choice. I get it, like a single mother. That's fine. But at least know what's going on so you can fight back. Know how they're silencing you so you can get around it. And then after this, and I'm going to take a break. And the last section of the episode is going to tie in to what's going on, like with what this teacher is doing, and so many more. So, over the last year, school board meetings nationwide have been the center of heated debates over contentious issues like mask and Fauci ouchie mandates for students, critical race theory in classrooms, and more. Rather than reform their practices to reflect the will of parents whose taxes pay their salaries, school boards have increasingly turned to a number of tactics and stratagems that muzzle parents from influencing their own children's schooling. Many school officials seem to treat parents' ability to comment on their children's education as a fully revocable indulgence extended by the government. For instance, the Ohio School Boards Association informs parents that under state law, quote, there is not a legal requirement that school board meetings afford the public the opportunity to comment or otherwise participate in the meeting, end quote. A number of districts seemingly tell parents they should consider themselves privileged to address such an august body of learned bureaucrats. As parents persist in making their voices heard, school boards have increasingly restricted public comment at school board meetings. Here are the 5 most common roadblocks school boards erect to parental rights. Number 1, forcing parents to publicly dox themselves at tense school board meetings. School board officials claim they have faced death threats, obscene phone calls, and demonstrations outside their homes, yet they often ask parents to publicly state their name and full street address before addressing the same crowds which administrators insist pose a threat of imminent violence. Each speaker is asked to state his or her name and home address for the record. Failure to do so will result in an individual not being allowed to speak. This was the chairwoman Jody Sapp of the Mankato or Minnesota area public schools on October 18th. So when a parent made multiple attempts to avoid giving his precise address, Sapp made clear that only a complete street address would suffice. My name is John Wicklund, and I live in Mankato, an unhappy father said as he introduced himself. John, you need to give me your address, Sapp replied. I live on 5th Street, he said. House number, she demanded, which he supplied. A similar policy holds in Prince William County, Virginia. When you are called to the podium, please state your name and address for the record, said Chairman Barbara Lateef at a recent meeting. In their case, parents may give the school board their address privately and say, my address is on file at the podium, which they already have it on file. If your kid is going to that school, they have your address on file already. You have to give that information. Number 2, speak only to agenda items approved by school board members. Other school districts have seized upon another way of stifling parents' dissent, forcing parents to comment only on agenda items approved by the school board. By implication, if the school board does not approve discussion of certain topics, such as mandates or controversial critical race theory, parents must forever hold their peace. So this was also in Mankato, Minnesota. Beginning at the November 1st school board meeting, open forum participation will be limited to those individuals who wish to speak to an item on the board agenda. The board agenda is always made available the Thursday prior to our meetings, and they are always on the district's website. And also, Prince William County did the same thing as well on September 15th, that limited parental taxpayer comments in part by insisting that all comments be, quote, confined to the subject of the hearing, end quote. As well as insisting parents address those topics directly, a word the policy uses 6 times. 3. Sign an NDA to see your child's curriculum. So, parents in Loudoun County, Virginia have raised serious questions about the impact of an anti racist syllabus adopted by the school district known as the Second Step Curriculum. Public school officials eventually allowed parents to see what their employees are teaching the area's children, but only if they first sign a non disclosure agreement like document. The district policy informs those signing that this is not a public document and that copying, broadcasting, or recording any kind is prohibited. While the school says this has been done to protect the commercial value of the curriculum, parents note that other commercial curricula have no such restrictions. The policy potentially bars parents from telling others the contents of a curriculum paid for by their own tax dollars. And the fact that parents are complying with this, I know some aren't, but man. Number 4, F you, a-hole. Vile insults hurled at parents. Although the legacy media frequently caricature conservative parents as profane bullies, it is often school board members themselves who hurled demeaning insults at parents. Last Tuesday, concerned mother Lauren Ropoli told a meeting of the Los Alamitos Unified School Board of Education that parents spoke out on mask and mandates and Fauci ouchie mandates for one reason, quote, we are vocal because we are our children's biggest advocates, end quote. President Marlis Davidson responded by saying, F you. Her profane outburst was caught on a hot mic. That was but one of a number of such incidents. In late spring, a parent named Rich Tyson told his local school board members, quote, "You work for us," and drew a scathing retort. "You're not going to stand up here and do anything to me, a-hole," said board member William Yeager of Penfield, New York. The two came close to having a physical altercation, but other members of the board restrained Yeager. Los Alamitos, California School Board President Marlis Davidson didn't realize her mic was still on and said F you to a parent sharing their concerns about the mandates. Number 5, calling on the Justice Department to investigate individuals, including parents, under the Patriot Act. See, people should have known that the Patriot Act would end up causing a problem later on down the road. This is why I've said it. I know John Doyle has said it. I know Elijah Schaefer has said it. Many others have said it. Safety cannot be more important than your liberty. That is the problem. People feel like their safety of not getting sick, because they think they'll never get sick if they do what they're told. They feel like that safety is more important than their liberty, and it's not. And I think that's why we have a problem coexisting with these people now, because they prioritize safety over liberty, and we prioritize liberty over mostly everything else, because that is why we have this country, is for our liberty and our Christian values. And the reason why we're falling apart is because this country's turned from God big time. It's the only reason we're suffering. This used to be a very blessed nation, and it was blessed for a very long time because of the foundation that the country was built on, which is Christianity. So, at the risk of understatement, calling on the federal government to investigate individuals, including parents whose actions you describe as harassing or threatening, chills robust public debate. Still, the National School Boards Association appealed to the Biden admin's DOJ to investigate parental outbursts, which, quote, could be the equivalent to a form of domestic terrorism and hate crime, end quote, prodding the DOJ to use the Patriot Act if necessary. Attorney General Merrick Garland almost instantaneously issued a memorandum stating, quote, "The department takes these incidents seriously and is committed to using its authority and resources to discourage these threats, identify them when they occur, and prosecute them when appropriate," end quote. Under oath before the Senate Judiciary Committee last Wednesday, Garland admitted to Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana that most of the incidents cited to justify the federal intervention did not involve violence of any kind. These tactics will only increase as parents in the public education establishment remain divided over the demands of teachers' unions. The teachers' unions have pitted themselves against the regular parents, the regular Americans out there, in a variety of ways, where it's mask mandates or the Fauci-Ouchie mandates, or them refusing to come into class, Representative Dan Crenshaw of Texas recently told Brian Kilmeade. The parents were really getting frustrated with the school closures over the past year and a half, the mask wearing that everybody knows is unnecessary for small children, and public school administrators just keep doing it anyway. As Joe Biden basks in the memory of his recent meeting with Pope Francis, he may want to reflect on what his church teaches about the inalienable right of parents to control their children's education. Parents have the right to choose a school for them which corresponds to their own convictions. This right is fundamental, according to the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Public authorities have the duty of guaranteeing this parental right and of ensuring the concrete conditions for its exercise. At a minimum, that ought to include the right to speak at their children's school board meetings without silencing, fear, intimidation, or harassment. Should a devout Catholic like Biden harbor any qualms about assuring such a reasonable request? Well, that's the problem. He's not a devout Catholic. And the other problem is that the Catholic Church, especially under Pope Francis, has strayed away from what the Catholic Church is supposed to ultimately stand for. That Therein lies the problem, as well as Catholicism is not the true faith, so it makes no difference to me. And that's my opinion on that. Okay, so speaking about what's going on in the schools, like with the teachers talking about their sexual orientations or their sexual proclivities, um, it's very rampant. And it didn't always used to happen like that in the schools, but it is now trickling down to where that's happening in high schools, middle schools, even elementary schools. And uh, first of all, I think it stems from where it generated, which is Hollywood. Hollywood is rife with pedophiles and um, probably rapists. Wouldn't doubt probably even, you know, abusers, domestic abusers. So it's rife with these types of people. And I thought it was very interesting that Brad Pitt would be the one to reveal that the elite Hollywood pedophiles control America. Now, look, I don't know much about Brad Pitt. I like a lot of his movies. I think he's a very nice looking man. He's had his issues, I guess. Everybody does. And I don't know how true much of this stuff is, but I did want to point it out that you have a huge Hollywood star. Now, he may not be huge these days anymore, but nonetheless, you do have a huge Hollywood star speaking out. So it says movie star speaks out against pedophilia rings. Following the recent spate of pedophile arrests in California, movie star Brad Pitt has revealed the true depths of Hollywood pedophilia in a shocking expose. As a 30-year seasoned veteran in the movie business, Pitt speaks about his experiences after witnessing the dark side of the entertainment industry firsthand. Mr. Pitt describes how the whole TV and film industry is run around a culture of grooming children for child trafficking networks that reach across the United States and beyond into the upper echelons of the political spectrum and societal hierarchy. You think Hollywood is about making movies? That's just a byproduct. It's about money and, more importantly, power and control. The people who run Hollywood also run America and most of the world, and they don't care about movies. You've heard of the Illuminati, right? The secret societies, the politicians, the bankers, and the media. They're the ones running these pedophile rings, and they're the ones that run the world. And it all goes back to Hollywood. Kids want to be in movies, or should I say, parents want their kids to be in movies, and they'll do anything to get them famous. When asked why Hollywood was targeted by these elite networks, he said, quote, "It's the parents. It's the American dream to be famous, and the parents will do anything to get them there. Have you ever met the mom of a child actor? They're nuts. It's easy pickings, and it's not just movies. It's TV, music, it's showbiz. The parents are basically selling their kids' souls for fame." Mr. Pitt goes on to expose the motivation behind the elite child trafficking and how the children are given roles to influence other children to push agenda. He describes how children are used as political currency, whilst the parents turn a blind eye in the hopes their offspring will be in the next box office smash. One of these elites buys into a movie. 1,000 kids go for the lead role, and 100 of them would probably work. Some young kid with a pushy mom turns up who will do anything to get the part. The kid gets sent off to some guy that runs a TV network. The network pushes the movie, and the first guy makes loads of money when it's a hit. The TV guy will never say a bad thing about the movie because the movie guy knows what TV guy did with that young kid. The same thing happens with politicians and bankers and the rest of them. It's all backroom deals with kids as bargaining chips. When asked about who these Hollywood players are, Pitt was reluctant to name names, saying, "I'm from the land of the free and easy lawsuit," but said he was confident these high level child abusers will soon see justice. The media will never expose the truth as they're a part of it. It's the independent media that will expose this. The internet is a wonderful thing, and the free flow of information is bringing it all to the surface now. They're losing their hold over the American people and people everywhere, and they know it. It's just a matter of time before it all comes out. Brad Pitt has had a rocky past with secret societies after a leaked video of his ex wife, Angelina Jolie, in which she discussed Hollywood Illuminati rituals, went viral. Mr. Pitt responded to the video by saying he was sickened by the revelations. So maybe this is another reason why they're not together anymore. Now, this was written back in 2017. So you see how it all starts in Hollywood, and it makes perfect sense what he's describing about why it's Hollywood, because people want to be famous, people want to make money, parents will do anything, and it's really sad because that shows you that these parents do not care about their children. I had parents that cared about me. I thought about wanting to be a singer. I wanted to go to American Idol. I wanted to try out. I wanted to sing. I wanted to do that. I wanted to be a not be like them, but I wanted to do the same kind of things that Britney Spears and NSYNC. I wanted to perform for people. And I loved the thought of being able to do it. And my parents never allowed me to go down that path, probably because they knew it would not be good. It could ruin my life. I could be far worse off now if I had been allowed to do that than the things that I've dealt with in my own life and the path that I did take. And while I still enjoy to sing and I would still love to perform for people, just not in the music industry. All right. So, knowing all that, there is someone who was most recently in trouble for these types of things, and that was Drake Bell. And if you don't know who Drake Bell is, he was on the show Drake and Josh on Nickelodeon, and I watched it all the time. I was in love with Drake Bell at the time. I thought he was so cute, and I always watched it. It was great. Did not know the dark side that was Drake Bell. Very disgusting. Anyway, um, we've got bad news for anyone hoping for a Drake and Josh reboot. It's been a weird past couple of years for former child star Drake Bell, and things have definitely been taken to another level recently. Bell was arrested in Cleveland in June 2021 and charged with a fourth-degree felony and a first-degree misdemeanor. The controversy has had people asking, what did Drake Bell do? Furthermore, what has stemmed from his arrest? Well, here's what we know. So, according to CMZ, Bell was charged with attempted endangering children and disseminating matter harmful to juveniles. Bell appeared in Cuyahoga County Court on Tuesday, June 3rd, 2021. He initially pleaded not guilty, but on Wednesday, June 23rd, Bell changed his tune. He pleaded guilty to child endangerment charges relating to a girl he met online in 2017 who had attended one of his concerts when she was only 15. The former Nickelodeon star's sentencing was scheduled for July 12th. Since the incident leading to Bell's arrest involved a minor, details about what actually happened are not readily available. That being said, Fox 8 News reports that Bell allegedly engaged in an inappropriate chat with the victim that at times was sexual in nature. The outlet also states that the alleged victim filed a report with the local police department in Canada back in 2018 regarding the incident. Following the initial report, Canadian authorities contacted Cleveland police, who conducted an investigation into the allegations. That investigation reportedly found that the victim had established a relationship with Bell several years prior, per Fox 8 News, and had then attended Bell's concert in Cleveland. The star was sentenced to 2 years of probation for crimes against a child. Bell was sentenced to 2 years of probation alongside 200 hours of community service per Variety. News of this development first broke on July 12, 2021. He initially faced up to 2 years in prison. And this isn't the first time Drake Bell has been in hot water. He was also arrested in December of 2015 for driving under the influence in Glendale, California. He was eventually sentenced to 4 days in jail, only one of which he actually served, and 4 years of probation. Prior to that arrest, he was also charged with driving under the influence in 2010. In addition to his DUI charges, Bell has also faced allegations of verbal and physical abuse. His ex-girlfriend, Melissa Lingafelt, who is also known as Jimmy Ono, alleged that Bell became abusive shortly after she moved in with him more than a decade ago. She said, I started dating Drake when I was 16. I was homeschooled. I moved in with him. I was singing. It wasn't until about a year later when the verbal abuse started. And when I say verbal abuse, imagine the worst type of verbal abuse you can imagine. And that's what I got. She said in August 2020 on a TikTok video, which has since been listed as private. The two reportedly dated for about 2 years, starting in 2006. And there's a tweet here from Kazi, Fallout Boy Pete. People talking about how it's impossible Drake Bell is an abuser when I've seen this years ago. Melissa Jimmy has been trying to get this to come to light for years. I remember reading all this on Instagram like actually years ago. Y'all want to defend a transphobe and for what? So, the verbal abuse then turned to physical, she continued, hitting, throwing, everything. At the pinnacle of it, he dragged me down the stairs in our house and lost police. My face hit every step on the way down. I have photos of this. Melissa also went on to hint that Bell had other inappropriate relationships with underage girls. She said, I don't even want to get into the underage girls thing. I mean, I will, but I'm scared, she said. Um, So he's done a lot. And the thing is that he got 2 years probation. He's only spent 1 day in jail for DUIs. He got 2 years of probation and 200 hours of community service. He is a danger to children, but he's not serving any time. And he's not the only one. So if you've heard the name James Charles, then you probably know what he did. Well, if you watch YouTube, now I used to watch a lot of beauty community YouTube videos, trying to learn how to do my makeup. Um, and so, of course, I know who James Charles is because of the YouTube beauty community. I don't like him. I've never liked him. I remember my oldest daughter wanted his makeup palette for Christmas, and I told her, I said, I'm not buying that. If you want it, someone else is going to have to buy it for you. I told her that I would buy her a knockoff that was made by somebody else, but I would not buy her anything from James Charles. I would not support him. So, in 2021, YouTube will seemingly never know peace, and it is time for beauty community superstar James Charles to face the music for allegedly grooming and sexually harassing several young boys and men. And yes, you read that right, several. Charles rose to fame in 2016 after his high school senior photos went viral for his stellar makeup and bright highlight. It was later revealed that Charles had edited the pictures and that a ring light was not the cause of the highlight, as he had originally claimed. Soon after, Charles became the young darling of the YouTube beauty community and today has around 25 million subscribers on YouTube. Even from the beginning, apart from the ring light debacle, controversy followed him. In 2017, Charles posted a now deleted tweet that reads, I can't believe we're going to Africa today. OMG, what if we get Ebola? James, we're fine. We could have gotten it at Chipotle last year. Rightfully so, fans called out Charles for the racist joke. Not rightfully so. The joke doesn't bother me one single bit. That's not the problem I have. After his plane landed in South Africa, he issued a Notes app apology where he acknowledged his privilege as a white male. Stupid. He didn't do anything wrong. People make jokes all the time. So, the next scandal Charles faced was in 2019 when he made a comment in a video about how he wasn't fully gay, since there's also been trans guys in the past too that he was really into for a moment in time. Charles faced backlash from the LGBTQ plus community for the transphobic remark, and he issued an apology to Twitter, claiming he should have chosen his words better. The final scandal, unrelated to grooming, is ironic as it involves Charles pretending to pose for a mugshot. In April 2020, across TikTok and Twitter, influencers and audiences alike were applying makeup and posing for fake mugshots. In many of the TikToks, the creators created a story for the mugshot, but when Charles posted his now deleted version to Instagram, he simply said nothing. Fans reacted negatively to the post, claiming that it trivialized domestic abuse. Charles reacted to the controversy by tweeting, Only I could lazily smudge on some purple eyeshadow and fake blood to recreate a dumb TikTok trend and have it twisted into an actual scandal. His response shows how Charles seems to view getting canceled as something to laugh about. Okay, so then there was another scandal in 2019 with a beauty person, Tati Westbrook. Don't care about all that. But um, she said that there was a waiter named Sam Cooke and how Charles made inappropriate advances on him at her birthday dinner, and he wasn't gay, so it was very inappropriate for him to be doing that. Um, Jeffree Star came forward and said that Charles had been banned from his home for being a predator. I don't know. So this was going on for a while. Um, In 2019, a 20-year-old named Gage Gomez came forward about a situation that happened during the same fateful Coachella weekend. Gomez alleged that Charles knew he was straight but continued to pressure him into sexual situations. Charles posted a Notes app explanation to Twitter, claiming that everything that happened between him and Gomez was consensual. For a brief period of time, Charles experienced relative peace until February 2021 when 16-year-old Isaiah posted a video to TikTok alleging that Charles had an inappropriate relationship with him. Isaiah included screenshots of their conversation and claimed that Charles sent him unsolicited nude images, and sexually explicit messages even after finding out Isaiah's real age. So later that day, he posted a Notes app apology again. He said he was flirting with the minor, but victim blames Isaiah for lying about his age. In Charles's defense, Isaiah reached out to him first as an excited fan, and that after finding out he wasn't really 18 as he claimed, he removed him from his Snapchat. Charles states that in the future he will ask to see the ID or passport of every guy he has a conversation with. Okay, so first of all, the burden of proof falls on the adult, and in the court of law, Charles claiming he simply didn't know that Isaiah was underage would hold no weight. Well, yes, it would. Um, if he thought if the profile said they were 18 and the person said they were 18, he would not be in any legal trouble. It's once he is told the age. Once you say, "Well, I'm 16," you have to stop talking. And I mean, I don't mean stop talking. I mean, if you're having sexual explicit conversations and exchanging nudes, once you learn they're underage, you have to stop all communication with them because clearly, there are adults and minors that communicate through social media, not even knowing that who they're communicating with. So that's not how that would work. Um, so Isaiah's confession unleashed a tidal wave of accusations, and to date, around 16 different men have come forward with stories, 10 of whom are underage. The youngest of these alleged victims is 14. If I sat here and discussed all of these accusations, we would be here forever. I will leave this Twitter thread link that breaks down every allegation if you want to go look into it. So he did do. So the whole point I'm making is all of this is happening, yet James Charles is still on YouTube doing whatever the heck he wants, and he's getting a lot of views still. And I don't understand. He has turn that off. He has 24.4 million subscribers, and his most recent video was 1 day ago. So 8 days ago, where he tries a full face of makeup from the dollar store, has 1.8 million views. 1.2 million, 1.5 million, 1.6 million, 3.7 million. And this is all within the last month. And I'm trying to figure out why. And it's like, I don't know. His most popular video was 2 years ago called No More Lies with 56 million views. So, but I don't understand why nothing happens to these people. That is my issue. And, it does stem to not just the Hollywood elites, but like Brad Pitt said, your politicians, your bankers, your media. It does. And there's some celebrities who have gotten off for serious crimes. Um, Vince Neil. Um, he reportedly got behind the wheel under the influence of alcohol, and he lost control, crashed into another car. The two occupants of the other vehicle suffered severe injuries. He was given 30 days in jail and 5 years of probation and community service, and he was ordered to pay $2.6 million to the victims, which some of Neil's insurance covered. And I know that has nothing to do with children, but I'm also linking the point that because they have power and money, this is why they get away with it, right? They get away with it because they have power and they have money. You have Floyd Mayweather Jr., who hit two women in a nightclub. You have Ted Kennedy and Chappaquiddick. Is that how you say that? Where he did a hit and run. So his vehicle careened off of a bridge into a pond. He claimed that he made immediate and repeated efforts. I guess she was with him. Yeah, that's what it is. She was with him. Then you have Matthew Broderick. Not sure what he did. Something about drunk driving as well. Um, he was only fined with $175. Khloe Kardashian, was driving under the influence. Nicole Richie, go. This is all vehicle stuff. Woody Harrelson, um, he fled from the police in London. He was arrested for his behavior. Um, so yeah, I don't know, but they get away with it because of their power and their money, and it does stem down to your bankers, your media, and your politicians. So I found this article on AmericanThinker.com that I think will just kind of tie this all up and end it. Notice how Democrats are never indicted. And I say that because Democrats are usually in your elitist groups of Hollywood and politicians and bankers. This is by William L. Gensert. In a display of raw federal power unseen since Barack Obama rappelled from a Black Hawk helicopter to personally beat bin Laden to death with an autographed copy of The Audacity of Hope, Roger Stone was arrested at his home by a 29-man, 17-vehicle tactical unit of the FBI. Another Trump figure has fallen. The end is near and the noose is tightening. All Trump associates now fear for their lives and freedom. Yet some people who have committed crimes much more serious than any of the Mueller indictments remain, as always, unafraid. That list, by no means comprehensive, includes Hillary Clinton, James Comey, Clapper, Brennan, Steele, Strzok. Is it Strzok? I don't know how you say it. Page, McCabe, or Mr. and Mrs. Rice and Yates. So some are guilty of lying to Congress or the FBI, mishandling classified information, obstruction, conspiracy, destroying evidence, and much more. A case could be made that the Mueller investigation itself destroyed evidence when it wiped clean the Strzok and Page cell phones to delete text messages requested by IG Horowitz. Yet, being a Democrat means never having to say you're sorry because the rule of law only applies to Republicans and conservatives. There are no pre-dawn guns drawn raids to arrest Democrats. Hillary sold 80% of America's uranium for a 20-minute, $500,000 Moscow speech by her husband and $140 million in donations to the Clinton Foundation, which foundationally was not a charity in any meaningful sense, unless, of course, the charitable purpose was to make Bill and Hill fabulously wealthy. In a contravention of campaign finance law, Hillary paid through her attorneys millions of dollars to a foreign national to use his connections with a foreign government to compile a dossier whereby both the foreign national and the foreign government could interfere with the presidential election. This is, we're talking about the Steele dossier. She knew her bathroom server was illegal, a risk to national security, but she wanted to keep her crimes secret. Mishandling of classified material and the wholesale flea marketing of her office and influence are imprisonable offenses. Yet, what difference at that point does it make? Hillary's exempt from prosecution because she's a Democrat and a bona fide leftist, and that provides blanket immunity. She knew, as did others from the Obama administration, that a Democrat can't get arrested in this town. One can act with impunity when there is no fear of prosecution. Why not harvest ballots to steal elections, provide sanctuary for felonious illegal aliens, lie to Congress, or try to frame a president? Democrats never worry about financial ruin or Mueller going after their families. Sally Yates opened the Flynn investigation under the pretense that he violated the Logan Act, a 1799 law widely believed unconstitutional and never successfully used to prosecute anyone, and a law he didn't violate since talking to the Russian ambassador was his job as a national security advisor. Yet, John Kerry and his negotiations with the mullahs after Trump canceled the Iran deal was ignored. Real crimes go unaddressed, while misstatements about lawful actions warrant incarceration. Mueller is fond of false statement charges where the underlying actions aren't illegal. He also loosely interprets the definition of a quote unquote lie. So Flynn was indicted for lying about lawful actions, as was Stone and Papadopoulos. Cohen was indicted for testifying negotiations over a Moscow Trump Tower ended in January of 2016 when they ended in June. George Papadopoulos told investigators a conversation with suspected CIA spy Joseph Mifsud took place prior to him joining the Trump campaign when he knew before their meeting that his appointment was imminent. Stone testified he had contact with people solely by phone when he also spoke via email and text. He claimed to have had used a single intermediary in communicating with WikiLeaks when he used two. He said he didn't discuss his conversations with his intermediary when he did. Those are 3 of the 7 charges. Most of Mueller's indictments are process crimes which can be come about as a result of his investigation. By making people fear they might have committed a crime, Mueller introduces them to lie so they can be indicted and turned against his real target, President Trump. Clapper lied to Congress, as did Brennan and Comey, who can only remember things when he has a $15 million book to write. McCabe lied to the IG. Barack Obama weaponized federal agencies to attack his political opponents. Hillary sold her office as Secretary of State for money. Strzok disregarded his oath of office and used his power to attempt to destroy Trump. In fact, he guaranteed he'd destroy Trump. Then, in testimony before Congress, he smirked with more arrogance than any Covington kid could ever muster. Yet, no arrest. Hillary destroyed her phones and her illegal server, and Comey leaked classified FBI memos to impel the appointment of his best bro as special counsel. Again, no indictments. Did I mention the newly elected anti Semitic Islamic congresswoman who married her brother to commit immigration fraud? Apparently, in America today, the only people who should fear prosecution are those who disagree with the quote unquote ones we've been waiting for. Because if you're a Democrat, you can't get arrested in this town. And boy, how true that is. How true it is. And it all comes down to money and power. This is why you see the BuzzFeed story coming out about the child sex crimes within the CIA agents. CIA agents. And they're not being prosecuted. You have the Sony executive for PlayStation being fired for being part of a pedophilia ring. I mean, our whole society is rife with these people. Because as long as they have power and money, nothing ever happens to them, which makes other people with power and money more entitled to do these same kinds of things, to act out on these behaviors that once they only thought about. And this is a problem. It's a huge problem because our children are the future of this country and our society. And allowing them to be sexually abused by pedophiles and indoctrinated by pedophiles and radical leftist, men hating, country hating teachers, it's going to destroy the society so quick, which is what they want. We have to stop being afraid of doing something to somebody because of their power and their money. That shouldn't matter. Right is right, wrong is wrong. And it doesn't matter who is doing what. If it's right, fine. If it's wrong, they need to be punished and be held accountable. Period. End of story. I'm going to leave the episode right there. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you had a good time, learned something, hopefully. And I hope that this will entice you to go subscribe to my podcast and leave me a review. You can go to Spotify, Anchor, Google, or Apple Podcast. And then go to YouTube. Watch some of my other videos that I've had up there. I'm uploading there more often than I was. And like I said, that if you are new, that was because I was covering the Kyle Rittenhouse trial and I didn't want to put it on YouTube and get it taken down. But now I'm back on there doing it. So go watch my videos, like and share them. Best of all you can do for me is to subscribe to the channel to help me build my base. And you can click the notification bell so you know every time I upload a new video. And I hope that you will come back and join me when I do another episode. Um, I'm hoping to get another one out on Wednesday this week. So stay tuned for that. And I hope you have a good rest of your day and God bless.